Marta Benítez hará la conexión habitual con México, pero antes vamos a pasar al análisis desde un plano internacional. En un día en el que hoy, sobre todo, el escenario macroeconómico ha estado marcado por ese dato de inflación en Estados Unidos. En los próximos minutos vamos a hacer un análisis sobre qué nos indica el dato de IPC de Estados Unidos, cuáles pueden ser las actuaciones de la Reserva Federal en las próximas reuniones de política monetaria. ¿Podría esto incrementar la presión para que aumente los tipos de una forma más acelerada en 75 puntos básicos de cara a junio y julio? Es una de las cuestiones que le vamos a plantear a nuestro invitado, a Ted Oakley, desde Oxbow Advisors. Ted, thank you so much for having us a few minutes.
Thank you, Marta.
Ted, today we will talk about a market perspective regarding the CPI. The Consumer Price Index accelerated 8.3% in April. It's more than the 8.1 estimate and near the highest level in more than 40 years. The core CPI has increased compared to the previous month. What does this data show us? Is really the inflation peaking?
Well, I think, Marta, what's really happening, and it all goes back to fuel, to gasoline or jet fuel, either one you want to say. But if you look at the numbers, if you look at airline tickets, for example, that was primarily most of the push, the difference between the 2 months. Now, that had to do with them having to pay more for jet fuel as well. But most of that you can track back to gasoline prices. And I think that's what probably people don't realize. A lot of the other commodities are rolling over in price. And we would expect that somewhere either June, July, August, that you're going to start to see those numbers fall back some. I don't mean go negative. I'm just saying go from maybe 8.5 back to 5 or 4.5 or something, because last year, if you remember, in June, July, and August 21, we had fairly high rates of inflation. So your comparison will go down. I think people forget about that, but that's what I think you'll see.
And will be the Fed more hawkish on next monetary policy meetings? What can we expect from Jerome Powell? Do you think it's possible to have a 75 basic points hike on next meetings?
You know, Marta, I would not expect 75. I wouldn't have expected maybe just one more hike, but after the day, they have a tendency to look backwards. Not a tendency, they do look backwards. They never look forward. And they're usually wrong. So my guess is they'll raise a half, and if they stay with it for another half. But by that time, there's going to be somewhere in here where they run us into a recession or run us into the ground, so to speak. And I think we're getting closer and closer to that, but we'll see. But I do not expect the 75 basic. That's fairly aggressive. That'd be like raising the discount rate a point or something like that, and I don't think they'll do that.
And meanwhile, we are seeing how Shanghai lockdown reanimate supply chain problems for U.S. companies. Names like Apple, General Electric, Stillwater are among the disrupted businesses. Some are warning of effects extending into summer. What do you expect? What can we expect from next earnings season?
Well, I don't think their numbers any of the companies almost will be as good as last year, because we had record net margins for companies, public companies, 13.5% almost, which is, as far as I know, that's the highest I've ever seen since I've been in the business, and probably the highest ever. So I don't think you'll see that again. And so that, if you look at everything combined, wages, inputs of commodities, fuel, et cetera, and then parts and et cetera, like you're talking about, makes us think that they can't hit the numbers in the second and third quarter. But we think that's part of what will affect the market. But, somewhere along the line, I mean, if you look at, if China can loosen up a little bit, maybe that may change things. There's a lot of supply just sitting outside, in the water there. So we'll have to just see what happens.
And finally, considering that the current market scenario, whether you see investment opportunities?
I didn't quite catch that, Marta. Excuse me. The question?
Can you hear me, Ted?
Now I can. I didn't quite hear your question. If you could repeat it for me.
Okay, yes, of course. Considering the current market scenario, where do you see investment opportunities?
Not many, Marta. You know, we've been defensive now for some time. We were defensive as far back as a year and a half ago. We knew things were expensive. And we got more defensive in the last 6 months, and we're very defensive now. And we just don't, we think that you're going lower in most of the prices. We've expected that all along. We think you're in sort of a classic bear market downturn, which means that every day like today where they bounce, you need to sell them because they're probably going lower. And that's what we've experienced all year long. We have a lot of things we like. Most of them are overpriced. You know, we track 200 companies extensively. And so we'll get in a buy range at some point in time. We just don't think we're there right now.
Oakley from Oxbow Advisors for this analysis.
All right, thanks.
Nosotros nos quedamos con esa visión que nos planteaba